Imagine stepping into a seemingly ordinary home, but the air is thick with unspoken tension.
Hmm.
Scratch beneath the surface of daily routines, and you'll find this, well, disturbing web of power, vulnerability, and manipulation sort of quietly unfolding.
Yeah, and that's precisely the space we're diving into today.
Exactly.
We have before us a compelling, maybe unsettling, collection of transcribed dialogues and inner thoughts.
Right.
Our focus is sharp, the intricate and, frankly, profoundly unequal relationships playing out between the household staff.
Okay.
We first meet Chandni, then Kalpana, and later another woman also named Chandni.
Oh, okay.
Their female employer, madam, and the male employer, sir.
So for you, our listener, our mission is to dissect these interactions, to truly understand the power dynamics at their core.
Yeah, and shed light on the stark vulnerabilities exposed within this domestic sphere.
Definitely. And whether you're deeply familiar with social dynamics or just curious, we'll navigate these complex issues. We want to extract key insights without, overwhelming you with detail. Okay, let's unpack this. The initial scene, it drops us right into a phone call between Chandni and Madam. What stands out to you about this opening exchange?
Well, what's immediately apparent is the seemingly routine nature of it all.
Yeah.
Madam tells Chandni she'll be late, work stuff, asks her to have Sir call when he wakes.
Standard enough, maybe.
But even in that simple instruction, we see Madam delegating communication with her husband through a subordinate.
Ah, okay.
Which subtly hints, maybe, at existing power structures within the household.
That's a fascinating point. Almost immediately after this, Kalpana arrives. She's introduced as Chandni's sister. Although there's a bit of ambiguity. Cousin, maybe.
Yeah, sister or cousin, it's a little unclear.
Yeah.
Kalpana mentions Chandni's gone to her native place, and she's there to cover.
So what are your initial thoughts on Kalpana's introduction?
Well, Kalpana's arrival marks an immediate shift. Her first impression of Madam's house is very nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's immediately juxtaposed with her quick speculative comment
Okay.
about Madam possibly having an affair because she's out late.
Wow. Okay. Quick judgment.
It tells us a few things. Kalpana is observant, perhaps a little judgmental,
Uh-huh.
and she's already forming opinions about the household dynamics based on, well, pretty limited information. It sort of sets the stage for her own interactions.
And then we have this rather unusual introduction between Kalpana and Sir. He's described as being asleep under the blankets.
Yeah, when Kalpana is presented to him.
It feels almost like he's an inert object in this first interaction. What do you make of that passive introduction?
Well, this peculiar introduction, it could be interpreted in a couple of ways.
Okay.
It might suggest Sir's disengagement from the, daily running of the household. Or perhaps it's a deliberate power move he's presented on his terms, even in his sleep.
Huh. Interesting.
It certainly feels like an odd way for a new staff member to be introduced to the head of the household.
Yeah, definitely odd.
But this passivity, it doesn't last long, does it?
No, certainly doesn't. We then see Sir on the phone with someone named Shweta. The conversation feels a little possessive. He questions her sudden outing plans, asking if it's necessary for her to tell him where she's going.
This seemingly casual phone call, it offers a glimpse into Sir's controlling tendencies.
You think so?
Yeah, his questioning of Shweta's plans, the implication she needs his permission, or at least his knowledge.
Okay.
It suggests a desire to exert dominance beyond just his relationship with the household staff.
Right. It raises questions about his other relationships, too.
Exactly. And following this, his attention turns to Kalpana. What's significant about his initial interaction with her?
The first thing he addresses is that Chandni didn't inform him directly about leaving.
Ah, yes.
It wasn't enough that Madam knew. He needed to be personally informed. How does this assert his authority?
Well, this seemingly minor point, it's actually crucial.
How so?
By emphasizing Chandni should have told him, Sir is subtly undermining Madam's authority
Okay.
and positioning himself as the ultimate figure of control. He's establishing a hierarchy where his knowledge, his consent, is paramount.
Even in things Madam seemingly handled.
Exactly. And then he proceeds to give Kalpana instructions, making sure to emphasize no complaints. What does that tell us?
It paints a pretty clear picture, doesn't it? His expectation is just unquestioning obedience. It reinforces that power imbalance right away. He's not looking for collaboration or feedback. He wants compliance.
Sets a rather rigid and potentially exploitative tone for their working relationship.
For sure. And then comes the seemingly harmless request for tea.
Which quickly devolves.
Yeah. into what's described as chit-chat. But this isn't just friendly conversation, is it?
Not at all. The chick chat is well, a thinly veiled attempt by Sir to probe Kalpana on a personal level.
Right.
His inquiries about her preferences, hot tea, no spicy food, even referencing that Hindi proverb about spicy food having a strong effect.
Yeah, what about that proverb?
It feels like he's testing her boundaries, trying to establish a more personal and potentially inappropriate connection.
It's a subtle but uncomfortable shift from the employer-employee dynamic.
Definitely. It feels like a deliberate attempt to be familiar, maybe even a little flirtatious, under the guise of just casual talk.
Introducing a personal element where it shouldn't be.
Exactly. And the situation escalates quite quickly from there.
Yeah, the headache. Sir complains of a headache and initiates physical contact.
Under the guise of a massage.
Right. And Kalpana's internal thought is just to relieve his pain, but his response, I think you will relieve my pain. It carries a very different suggestive meaning.
Oh, absolutely. This is a pivotal moment where Sir's intentions become much clearer.
How do you interpret that?
Kalpana's innocent thought about helping him is immediately twisted by Sir's suggestive remark. It reveals his predatory undercurrent. He's using a feigned ailment as a pretext for inappropriate physical contact.
Yeah.
And testing Kalpana's reaction.
It's manipulative, seeing how far he can push.
A classic manipulative tactic. And he doesn't stop there, does he?
No, he then delves into very personal questions about Kalpana's background, her relationship with Chandni, her marital status.
And the deeply personal details of her divorce.
Yeah, including her husband's impotence and alleged abuse. Why probe so deeply into such sensitive areas?
Well, this invasive questioning, it serves several potential purposes for Sir.
Like what?
Firstly, it's a way to gather personal information. Stuff he could potentially use later to exert influence or control over her.
Okay, leverage.
Secondly, by making her share such intimate details, he's creating a false sense of intimacy, blurring those professional boundaries.
Making it harder for her to resist later.
Potentially, yeah. And finally, it could simply be an exercise of power, making her uncomfortable, reminding her of her vulnerability.
Wow. We then see him follow her into the kitchen. What happens there?
He feigns thirst, compliments the smell of the food, seemingly innocuous actions.
But then?
Then his language becomes overtly suggestive, despite Kalpana's clear attempt to maintain professional boundaries.
Yeah, she says, kitchen is for making food, not mood. Pretty direct.
Very direct. But how does he respond?
He persists. Despite her clear rejection, Sir persists.
His suggestive language, his actions in the kitchen, they demonstrate a blatant disregard for her boundaries, a sense of entitlement.
Like he believes he can just ignore the professional dynamic.
Exactly. Impose his desires. And this is further emphasized when he interrupts Kalpana's attempt to call Chandni.
Right. She tries to call for help, maybe?
And he cuts her off. What does that interruption signify?
By interrupting her call, Sir is isolating Kalpana, preventing her from seeking support or maybe revealing his behavior.
It's a classic tactic of control, cutting off communication, making the person feel alone, vulnerable.
But then the dynamic shifts quite dramatically, doesn't it?
It does. Suddenly, Kalpana's demeanor changes. She directly accuses Sir.
And then the bombshell.
Yeah, then we learn about the existence of a video implied to be compromising that Sir possesses.
Yeah.
Of Madam.
Of his wife. This adds a whole new layer of complexity, doesn't it?
A massive layer. What are your thoughts on this unexpected twist?
It's shocking. It suggests a much darker, more pervasive pattern of exploitation. Not just the staff's, but maybe his own wife, too.
It implies his manipulative behavior isn't limited, potentially extends to her.
And Kalpana's reaction is equally surprising. She immediately demands money, 25,000 rupees monthly.
In exchange for not releasing the video to Madam's wife.
Okay, so is this some kind of justice in a system that offers no protection? Or is it just more exploitation?
That's a crucial question, and it highlights the morally ambiguous territory we've entered.
Definitely gray.
On one hand, Kalpana is potentially using Sir's own exploitative actions against him, seeking some form of compensation maybe for the vulnerability she and others face.
Okay.
On the other hand, you could see it as another layer of exploitation, even if it's directed at someone who is also potentially complicit or, a victim herself.
It's messy, and Sir's cynical comment afterwards about maids needing frequent changes.
What does that reveal about his attitude?
It just underscores his dismissive, exploitative view. They're disposable, easily replaceable.
Further highlighting the power imbalance, his lack of regard for their well-being.
Totally. Following this tense exchange, we see the introduction of Satish, a new male household help.
Right. Satish arrives.
His initial interactions seem normal. Madam instructs him about preparing Sir's tiffin. What's noteworthy about Satish's presence?
Well, Satish's introduction, while seemingly ordinary, it adds another layer to the household dynamics.
How so?
He becomes another potential witness to these ongoing power imbalances, the exploitation.
Ah, another set of eyes.
And Madam's seemingly routine instruction about Sir's tiffin contrasts so sharply with the underlying tensions we've just witnessed.
Yeah, the veneer of normality.
But the narrative then circles back to the exploitation of female staff with the introduction of another Chandni.
Or maybe the first one returned. It's a bit unclear, but the name is the same.
Right, another Chandni. What can we infer from this recurrence?
The fact that we encounter another instance of Sir's predatory behavior, again targeting a female domestic worker named Chandni, it strongly suggests a pattern of abuse.
Definitely not an isolated incident.
His inappropriate comment while she was bathing. His chilling admission of possessing a video of her.
Used for blackmail and sexual exploitation.
It's horrifying, and his manipulative language about keeping the video safe if she stays with him.
It's particularly disturbing, preying on her desperation. What does her plea to delete the video highlight?
It just underscores the immense power Sir wields over her, the profound vulnerability of these workers.
But the threat of the video, its potential consequences, it leaves her feeling trapped with very little recourse.
And we also get a brief mention of the first Chandni, or maybe Kalpana, talking about her sister again, expressing distress when she learns about Sir's actions.
Which reinforces the idea of a cycle of abuse and maybe the potential for shared knowledge, some support among the staff, perhaps.
Maybe. Later in the narrative, there's a conversation between Satish and Madam about maid verification.
Ah, yes.
What's significant about this exchange, given everything we now know?
Well, despite Madam's earlier negative remarks about maids and the clear risks involved, both she and Satish passively rationalize not doing proper verification.
Why? Why wouldn't they?
This inaction, especially in light of the revealed exploitation, suggests maybe a willful blindness, or perhaps a fear of confronting the underlying issues in their own home.
Easier not to know, maybe. We also have that small detail of Satish's cigarettes and sweating.
What could that indicate?
Could be anything. But maybe nervousness. Satish's apparent nervousness, the sweating, the smoking, could suggest he's aware of the disturbing dynamics.
Perhaps his own fear of becoming implicated or even victimized.
It hints at this level of unspoken tension, anxiety just permeating the place.
Yeah, and Madam's casual mention of the previous maid leaving for an unknown reason.
That feels significant now.
It further solidifies the suspicion of a recurring pattern of exploitation that she may be aware of, at least on some level. Maybe not the full details, but something.
So, to bring it all together, this deep dive has revealed a deeply troubling pattern of abuse of power and exploitation, right within this seemingly ordinary household.
Yeah, the female domestic workers are consistently shown to be in incredibly vulnerable positions.
Facing manipulative, predatory behavior from the male employer.
Indeed, it paints a stark picture of the power imbalances that can exist within domestic settings and the ways these vulnerabilities can be and are exploited.
It truly does. So for you listening, here's maybe a question to consider, something that extends beyond just the specific household.
Okay.
What does this glimpse into a private sphere reveal about the broader societal issues? Power dynamics, consent, the protection of vulnerable individuals?
That's a big question.
Yeah, and how might unseen power imbalances play out in other seemingly ordinary situations, maybe even in ways we don't immediately recognize?
It really encourages us to look beyond the surface, doesn't it? Beyond just everyday interactions.
Right.
And consider the potential for these hidden power dynamics and their impact on individuals within all sorts of social structures.